I was just saying it's been too long since you and I have spoken, because you do this wonderful thing every year. Talk to me about the rankings, the standouts to you.
Well, we have the top schools, and we have Stanford at the top of the list again this year. So no surprise, several years running. I think it's been on a run. It is a big undertaking, but people really are very excited about just doing this every year. So we've got Stanford as #1, Chicago and Harvard #2, Northwestern came in at 4, and Dartmouth at 5. The top of the list has not changed much year to year. But you see some little changes, and what you see a lot more of is shifts that we're talking to schools about that are starting to happen. I think COVID really had an effect on how people are thinking about what they're teaching, what they want to learn, how they're learning. These hybrid models of education the last 2 years, some of those pieces are sticking and continuing at schools in ways that schools are offering up more flexibility to students. So there's a lot of that we don't capture in the ranking, but that we do capture in talking to the students and the schools.
What was sort of that biggest change that you realized year over year about some of those big long-term structural impacts from COVID?
Well, I think, the one that seems to be most lasting is that technology and the tools that were developed for remote learning, now they're trying to really think of much more innovative ways to apply them, to really tap into bases of students that are farther away that would never consider maybe coming to New York or going to Chicago or going to Cambridge. So the technology seems to be something that they harnessed it in a certain way the last 2 years, and now a lot of the schools are saying, well, how can we be more strategic in how we're going to use it going forward? And then the other thing I think that COVID in the last 2 years has done is changed people's priorities. So we also measure jobs, of course, paramount, compensation, what people earn, very important. And the top 3 consistently have been consulting, finance jobs, and tech. But now again, as you talk to schools, you're hearing them say that students are more interested in ESG.
Yeah.
There are a lot of schools we're hearing rumors about that are going to soon be announcing specializations in ESG. We might have some news on that in a story next week,
Perfect.
actually.
Then we'll have you back.
Climate change, Columbia Business School, we're doing a story that we'll roll out next week on that. And Columbia Business School has a new campus and new buildings that are being constructed at the same time that a new climate school is being built. And they're really developing now a curriculum that is extremely tied to the climate school, to the engineering school, because these are going to be so integral for leaders of the future.
We only have about a minute left. We've heard a lot about loan forgiveness and affordability. Are any of those conversations translating from undergraduate to business schools and making it affordable?
To some degree they are, not quite the extent that they are at undergraduate, but you're certainly seeing pretty high price tags for some of these programs. The difference, of course, is that when kids, they're not all kids, some are older, they've been out working. When students come out of these programs, they're often moving into jobs that are pretty well-paying jobs. Again, that's why you're seeing the demand for the consulting jobs, the finance jobs, and so on. And there's a little bit more of an ability there to deal with that. Also, it's a shorter program, right? You're maybe in school anywhere from 3 to 6 semesters at the very most, but not that much. So it's not quite the issue that it is at the undergraduate level, but here and there you do hear talk about it. And I think COVID taught everybody to question what those price tags at those schools are, because they were learning in different ways.